Next on BYUSN, a guarantee for the ages. If you could guarantee a BYU football win over either Texas or Oklahoma in 2023, which one are you taking and why?
And the first lines are out for BYU season opener. How much is BYU favored by, and is it too much?
Welcome to BYU Sports Nation, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. It is Thursday, May 25th. I am Spencer Linton, teamed up with the guy who scored 100% on his BYU football history AP exam, Jarom Jordan.
I feel confident that I do pretty good in that. I don't know about a hundy, but AP, what was your, did you take AP class? I assume you did because you were an academic, all-state. What was your favorite AP class?
I did not take a single AP class.
What? I'm not academically inclined, and I took 3.
No, why? Well, I wanted to enjoy my high school career, especially my senior year.
They weren't that hard.
I took a bunch of honors classes, no AP classes, though.
Okay. AP Gov was super fun, and it wasn't even hard. I nailed that one.
They didn't have a BYU football AP history class in my high school.
I did want a sports. I proposed in like a 10th grade English class, a sports history class.
Okay.
Like, why is it just the history of the country? Like, there's an angle that could be, like, isn't there some Lord of the Rings class at BYU? Like, we could have a sports history class, couldn't we? Which brings us to this, 100, because there's how many days to the Bearcats?
Countdown to the Bearcats.
100 days.
Hey, keeping it 100. Let's go, baby.
100 days away. Not from BYU's inclusion in the Big 12. That's right around the corner.
Yeah,
but
that's
from
like
the first
5 weeks.
Football game as an official member of the Big 12 Conference.
That's exciting. Are we going to start doing the countdown every day because we're sub 100? What's our decision there?
We are getting into the doldrums, the lonely and dreary summer. So maybe,
trust me, when we discuss what we're going to talk about on the show, I feel it every morning. Okay, also on today's show, Brian Howell of BuffZone.com to discuss the rumors surrounding Colorado and the Big 12. Do they want to be in the Big 12? Do they want to stay in the Pac-12? What do they think of the contrived rivalry with Utah? Some interesting comments on Zach Wilson from the Jets GM. Plus, is Zach a Big 12 legend? Who's saying that? It's like in the WCC when I saw Jimmer Fredette brought up, I was like, what? He didn't play this league. Another report of a men's hoops opponent, why Brigham Young himself would love this one. And the newest Deep Blue featuring BYU gymnast Lindsey Hunt using art to get her from the hospital room to the balance beam.
Plenty of reasons, my friend, to rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
Did he take this all the way? Yes! Hurdles his way. Highlight reel. Touchdown.
The Cougars upset the third-ranked team in the country.
Oh, good vibes right there.
Feeling good.
In the spirit of 100 days away from the first BYU football game, if you could 100% guarantee a win over either Texas or Oklahoma.
It is May 25th.
In the one and only season that BYU gets to play Texas and Oklahoma as conference foes within the Big 12. Jarom, which game are you guaranteeing a win with and why?
Now, Texas is on the road, and there's a lot there. Oklahoma is at home. And it is senior day.
A ton there.
Night, we think. Woo, there's a lot. I think it's Texas. I would take either, but I would take Texas because of the brand, because of Matthew McConaughey, because of the 2013 and 14 games. Keep that going. Let's make up some rivalries that don't exist.
Okay. Bijan
Robinson versus Tyler Algier.
Okay.
Longhorn Network versus BYU TV. None of these rivalries exist. We're making it up. The preseason pick to win the Big 12 by most accounts. Perhaps the team that is always hyped the most preseason. If we think we get hyped, it's Texas. Always expected to be good. The fact that BYU has been so good against both is also interesting. Cougar Stats says BYU's combined 6-1 against Texas and Oklahoma. Of all the teams who have faced these two at least 7 times, BYU has the highest winning percentage in college football history. Notre Dame's second at 78%, BYU 86%. I would take Texas. Honestly, I would take both.
Okay.
Dude. I would take both.
Oh, yeah.
Like either is what I mean. I'm hoping BYU gets 1. I don't want 0-2. 2-0 feels like too much. I will take 1-1 right now, and the one I would take is Texas. That is going to be such a huge game in late October. My birthday's 2 days later. All I want for my birthday is a win at Texas.
There is no wrong answer here because both of the wins would be massively important and impactful for BYU. And they're games that BYU will not be favored in. So when you go into a season and, odds makers are looking at these games, they're just chalking those up as losses. So that's like stealing 100%. One back, yes. Right? All of the reasons you gave for BYU beating Texas, I agree with. And I want the PTSD to continue for Texas's fan base against BYU, where it's like, oh my gosh, we can't beat those guys.
Yeah, I went to the spot. Last weekend on Saturday, I was at the hurdle spot, and I was like, oh man, this is it. Like, could Keaton Slovis be doing something right here this year? Could Aiden Robbins? Could all these guys? Like, could Keanu Hill? Yeah, there's some PTSD, even though it's been 10 and 9 years respectively.
If I have to lean one direction, and this is based primarily on the fact that it would be a late November win, and maybe BYU would need it for bowl eligibility. Yeah. You get Oklahoma, it's senior night. Oh my gosh, if I could guarantee that all of the BYU seniors leave LaVell Edwards Stadium with just an epic win over a huge brand in Oklahoma, then I'm probably leaning that direction. And Oklahoma's projected to win 9, maybe 10 games.
They always will be. Even though last year they stunk.
BYU is only undefeated against one of these teams. I would love for that undefeated mark to continue against Oklahoma. Get to 3-0. And along with senior night, yes, maybe BYU's playing for bowl eligibility, but just to welcome the Sooners in and then send them off to the SEC with a big old fat loss as they go into their big money scenario and BYU moves on in the Big 12, I think that would be fantastic. BYU also is going to be playing against Dylan Gabriel for a second time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
5'11".
I would love for Keaton Slovis to be the guy that outplays Dylan Gabriel, who is projected by some, if not to be the best quarterback returning in the Big 12, one of them, along with Jalen Daniels at Kansas and Quinn Ewers at Texas.
I think his production is one of the best. I don't think he's one of the best.
We are not completely sold on him.
If you put Dylan Gabriel on UCF, he's not talked about in the same way as Oklahoma. He's got some awesome weapons. We're hoping that Keaton Slovis is really good at BYU and that he wasn't a product of NFL guys around him his freshman year at USC. We're confident that that is not the case, that he will be a good quarterback independent of that situation. Granted, we hope BYU's successful O-line, a good running back in Aiden Robbins, and some good receivers obviously coalesce in a way that's awesome. But in both of these games, Spence, BYU, not even close to being considered good win probability.
No.
5% at Texas. What are they playing at Georgia?
What is it, like 18% against Oklahoma?
18% against Oklahoma. Like, that one is weird. BYU's at home. I'm not sure Oklahoma's going to be amazing. Listen, Oklahoma's been a way better program than Texas the last 20 years. Like, not even close.
100%.
Not even close. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, and like the New Year's Six appearances for Oklahoma is like ridiculous. Oklahoma has like as many New Year's Six appearances as BYU has like WAC titles. Like, just a stupid amount. They are so good. But last year, didn't have it. Did not have it. Will they struggle again? Will BYU be in a position at the end of the season where they are healthy enough, where they are motivated enough? Perhaps they need it for bowl eligibility and senior day, and that's enough, right, in terms of motivation, that you get one of those wins. The toughest road environment the BYU faces this entire year is at Texas. Like, that will be hard. At Arkansas is tough.
It wasn't tough in 2014.
Well, not when you put up 41. But here's the thing. In 2014 and 13, BYU had an NFL backfield in Taysom Hill and Jamal Williams. I dare say the best quarterback running back combo BYU's ever had.
Does BYU now, though?
Two.
Do they have NFL players in Keaton Slovis and Aiden Robbins?
Listen, BYU hopes that. We hope that. But we need to see that. And in late October, how beat up is BYU? In late November, how beat up is BYU?
That's why I would
concerns.
Guarantee the November one. It's like, who knows what BYU is. But if I'm guaranteeing it's so late in the season, like, just figure out a way to win your senior night game. And you brought up a fun angle within the Texas-BYU rivalry, if we're calling it that.
There's that one.
The Sarkisian factor is also interesting.
And Sark, which, by the way, talking to an assistant coach with the women's volleyball team, David Hunt, he said, Sark's the best. He said, we love him here. He could not be nicer. He said, we'll bring women's volleyball recruits, say, hey, we got one this weekend. He's like, bring him on in. I want to talk to him. So he is the best. And we talked about how much we love Sark here, too. So
Holy cow.
That angle, obviously, is going to be a
6-1 combined BYU is against these two teams.
unbelievable. Can Colby Clausen run out the flag against Oklahoma? Like, Colby Clausen, by the way, is working with the sports medicine department.
I think that's an obvious choice, right? Let's just make that happen.
He is the one bringing out the flag.
Speak it into existence. Colby, you're going to be carrying out a flag.
And he brings out like a sling and just like hands it to the Oklahoma sideline.
He runs over to the sideline with a sling, a ceremonial
give this
sling.
to Sam and that AC joint. Okay, topic 2. BYU, that would be so bad. Topic 2. BYU opens up as a 23.5-point favorite from DraftKings, 24 from Caesars, your favorite Roman betting source. Point favorites against Sam Houston in the opener. What do you make of that line?
E2 Brute? I think it's fair. Sam Houston.
That big's fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's fair. The juice will be high for BYU for sure in early September, and you're asking a team that's making the jump. This is their first FBS game ever, and it's on the road in Provo the year that BYU goes into the Big 12.
It's
And
a P5 team.
it'll be a sellout crowd. I mean, people have been clamoring. Clearly, they feel strongly about having a spot in LaVell Edwards Stadium for this year and season tickets and all that. So I think it's fair. Yeah, I mean, maybe I thought, probably 20. So it's a little bit higher than I thought it would be.
I feel the same way. It's a touch high.
Like 20 or 21 is probably where I would have put it, but it's not so egregious that I'm like, oh my gosh,
If it was 30?
It's like, whoa, that's a little bit too much.
Certainly hope BYU wins the game by that much.
I'd probably put it at 21, but, this is a good opportunity to remind everybody what could have been here, okay?
Yep.
Remember when Tennessee was slated to be the team that was opening up the season in Provo?
Would you want that right now, by the way, given how tough the schedule already is?
I don't think so. I don't think I would prefer the BYU opened up the season with Tennessee with so many new parts.
If you took Arkansas off the board,
Maybe.
I would say
yes. But you got to play at Art, 2 SEC teams, and then 9 Big 12 games?
Yeah.
No.
Too
much.
Eliminating that one. Well, BYU didn't do it. Tennessee bought it up. But, yeah.
And BYU got paid for it, so win-win.
Well, they're giving it back. A reported 1.2 to Mr. Sam Houston. This is a battle of two men going at it. Brigham Young versus Sam Houston. Okay, yes, new FBS team. They're in Conference USA now. Don't forget, in 2021, in the spring, this team went 11-1. And then in the fall, they went 10-0 and won the national championship. Like, this was a really good program. 2022, they struggled. They were 5-4, but they did hold out their top receiver and arguably their top linebacker.
Okay.
So they are going to play those guys. They have the WAC Defensive Player of the Year. Fun WAC connection, obviously, in Kavion Gaither. This is a team that really struggled last year on offense, but defensively only gave up 20 points a game. Like, they have some ballers on defense. So for BYU to be a 24-point favorite, listen, in the first game, certainly hope that. Traditionally, in the first game, especially with the new QB, you don't score as many points as you think. I'd love to think that BYU gets into the 40s in this game and holds Sam Houston something like 14 or 17, and then you're sitting around that 23.
Hey, if it's a 35-10 game or a 38-13 game, awesome.
I'd take that right now.
Yes.
And then the next week, you tune up again, FCS opponent Southern Utah. Now you got a real test at Arkansas, and then you're into Big 12 play. This is as good of a sort of ramp up, by the way, as BYU has ever had. Obviously,
I love the slow build.
SCU first would have been preferred, but I don't really care. You have a winnable G5 game, you have an FCS game, and then you have a P5 game. Like, this is the perfect ramp up. And then Arkansas is the toughest opponent in terms of physicality. You're going to play for a few weeks because they got Kansas, Cincinnati. I'm hoping BYU can win both those games and be sitting at 4-1 with the one loss at Arkansas. That would be the most ideal situation. Then you only need 2 wins in the next 7 to get to a bowl game.
If you go and beat Arkansas and you're 3-0, now you cut yourself a little bit of slack going into Big 12 play. It's
my gosh.
Maybe you lose at Kansas, but then come home and beat Cincinnati, you're still 4-1.
Right, but you're not going to take a loss at Kansas if you win at Arkansas. Like, emotionally. You're going to be like, whoa!
That's because BYU would be ranked in the top 20, and it's
slow down.
This is what BYU has done.
Yes. Yeah, way to wear that T-shirt and rile the people up. You know
it was a calculated effort today.
And it was a WAC schedule. BYU ain't in the WAC. You know who was in the WAC? Sam Houston.
Sam Houston. Yeah,
going to be in
absolutely.
Conference USA.
This line is so unique, Jarom, that it also brings about a very interesting stat of the day.
It's the BYU Sports Nation stat of the day.
So it turns out, courtesy of our friend Mitch Harper over at KSL Sports, that this is BYU's largest Week 1 spread against an FBS team since 1989, in 34 years.
How much of this is Sam Houston stinks versus BYU's a P5 team now?
Probably a little of both. BYU did it against New Mexico in 1989. New Mexico was a terrible team.
They opened the season with a whack game.
Yeah.
It's a weird deal.
Yeah, and BYU did that
sophomore year.
in 1990 as well against UTEP.
Right.
Yeah, before they played Miami.
Football was weird 30 years.
Very different 11-game schedules. What is that?
They didn't have TV money like now.
Yep.
Yeah, there were a lot of different things. Yeah.
So this is unique.
This
This is a healthy line for BYU, one that's 34 years in the making in terms of just how big the spread is.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to think 0-1 against Tulane, obviously a huge result there, but BYU wasn't expected to be that good. So, yeah, and BYU's not expected to be that good this year. I think this is indictment more on Sam Houston's sort of 5-4 record last year.
Yeah, having to play on the road in Provo.
Yeah, but listen, this is a team that's, again, competed for FCS titles, has a lot to prove, held out a couple guys. Could be a little more interesting than we're hoping for. As long as BYU wins by 17 plus, I'm good in this one. If BYU does not cover that, but they win by 17, and they score at least in the 30s, then I'm good. But we are going to react strongly because we're going to say, well, this leads to this in Big 12 play, no matter what in game 1. No matter what. Like if BYU wins 31-17, we'll be like, 17 was too many. You didn't score enough. If you give up 17 to Sam Houston, what are you going to give up to Kansas?
Well, you just put out the curse of 17 plus, so now BYU's not going to win by 17 plus.
Should I go back and detail all the times 17 didn't do anything? By the way, Saturday I was calling a rugby game, and I tried to jinx the kicker by saying all the stats.
You couldn't
do it.
Still made it.
He still made it. So as soon as he made it, I go, chalk it up for the announcer jinx doesn't exist.
Okay.
Got it. Come on now.
Our question of the day. We told you we're keeping it 100. Are you 100% guaranteeing a win over Sam Houston in game 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, so am I. I'm 100%. I'm 100% on that.
I'll even throw out 17 plus right now to make everybody nervous.
100. He's 100% guaranteeing a win at 17 plus.
You'll like the way you look, I guarantee it. You'll like the way the BYU offense looks, I guarantee it.
If you could 100% guarantee a win for BYU either over Texas or Oklahoma, and the lone shot that BYU has at those two teams as co-members of the Big 12, which team are you choosing a guaranteed win over and why? Ben Peterson on Twitter says, Texas. I want the Texas faithful to feel a shiver up their spine every time they see the stretch. Why? They already do, Ben. The losses should haunt their dreams with Taysom Hill leading the charge.
Unfortunately, the bye week for the Saints is in week 11. Otherwise, Taysom could run out the flag.
Okay.
On that one. How epic would that be?
Jordan Royal on Twitter answers, Oklahoma. Senior night with possible bowl eligibility on the line with the Rock and LaVelle Edwards Stadium atmosphere. No-brainer.
Not a no-brainer.
Okay.
No, this is a tough one. It's not a no-brainer.
It is tough. At CDShot99 on Twitter, I'd take the guarantee of beating Texas. Okay. BYU has a better chance of winning at home on senior night against Oklahoma. Again, this is a guarantee. So he's banking that senior night emotions will just win.
You just have a better shot.
Okay?
Yeah, you take your chance in that. Yeah.
He said winning on senior night is a better chance after dark, no less, when BYU has been really good in late games, than winning on the road in Texas where Bama escaped by the skin of their teeth last year.
Yeah, in a day game. I wonder when this game will be.
I bet the Texas game is probably during the day.
Probably, yeah, like an early afternoon game. It's going to be.
Feels like it.
It'll be nice temps, probably October 28th in Austin.
Hey, if it's not a day game, whatever. BYU plays really well at night. I'm good with that.
Do we care when the games are in the Big 12? I'm not talking at home. They will be at night, we think.
I do. I don't want any noon kickoffs, and BYU's going to probably have a couple of those, probably at West Virginia.
Noon kickoff in
Eastern
most
time.
cases will give you better exposure. Not always. But, you have a chance of being that Fox game.
Like the Morgantown situation, having to play at noon Eastern.
Is there any Morgantown situation we're going to be cool with? That was perfect.
Hey, I would take a night game there just to give BYU a little bit more time to acclimate in. Those early kickoffs Eastern time are typically been brutal.
What do you mean? At Michigan in 2015 was fine. Join us tomorrow for a BYU Sports Nation special that takes a look back at the 2020 Cougar football team 2020 BYU football performing in a pandemic. Tomorrow at noon Eastern on BYU TV and BYU Radio.
What a wild ride that was. Holy cow. Speaking of wild rides, up next, we got the insider who's tracking what the heck is going on at Colorado with the Pac-12 and rumors with the Big 12. Brian Howell joins Jarom Jordan one-on-one next to discuss all of the conference realignment scenarios. And is Colorado really thinking about moving to the Big 12? This is BYU Sports Nation.
Accidents don't just happen 9 to 5. They happen when you least expect them. The team at Siegfried & Jensen is here for you 24/7. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour. Really here for you. No matter when you call us, you'll speak to a real person and have access to the same expertise and personal attention as always, and get the legal help you need when you need it. Nights, weekends, every day, every hour, 24/7.
Learn more at siegfriedandjensen.com.
Introducing the Truck for Adventure. The all-new 2022 Nissan Frontier doesn't compromise on power or comfort. This midsize truck was redesigned to incorporate the latest technology and designs for safety, comfort, and convenience. Plus, with up to 6,700 pounds of towing capacity and best-in-class horsepower, it's rugged enough for adventure and still safe enough to transport all your favorite people. Where's your new Frontier? You'll find it at Tim Dowling Nissan Southtown and South Jordan.
Meet Max, our newest addition to the White House staff.
We are the first family, and we were hoping that you could help us out.
You want me to babysit some Russian kid?
Someone is looking to hurt both of our families, TJ.
How is this even possible?
An American posing as a Russian.
Why should I be scared? You've got Max.
Welcome back to Studio B live on BYU Sports Nation. I'm Jarom Jordan alongside Spencer Linton. Well, certainly this week, Barry Trammell of the Oklahoman talking about Colorado to the Big 12, Deion Sanders there, the Utah-Colorado rivalry, the transfer portal with Colorado. The Buffaloes have been in the news quite a bit, so we wanted to catch up with all things Colorado relative to the Big 12 and otherwise with our guy Brian Howell of buffzone.com. All right, Brian, Barry Trammell of the Oklahomans certainly stirring it up, mentioning that Colorado could join the Big 12 soon. I don't know what soon means. What are you hearing, and what do you think of all this?
Well, I don't know what soon means in his timeline either, but I'm not hearing that anything is imminent at Colorado. That I don't think that that's on their radar right now for something that they're going to be doing like this summer or anything like that. I mean, I still think the preference for Colorado is to stay in the Pac-12 if they can. But I think they might be preparing for contingencies and things like that in case other dominoes fall. But I don't think they're ready to make that leap yet.
And that's what we're all kind of waiting for, and it feels like it hinges on the Pac-12 TV contract, which hasn't been finalized or announced. There's lots of rumors around it. What are you thinking of what's going on in the Pac-12, and what could happen based on what does or doesn't happen with that deal?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is obviously dependent on that deal. I think schools want to find out what are we actually valued at before we make this decision whether to leave or not. It has taken longer than most people expected. I thought the deal would be done by now. I'm a little surprised we're going into summer of 2023 without a deal, but I think that's a big thing as far as keeping these schools together. And depending on how that turns out, then we might see some dominoes fall if the money is not there. But I mean, there's a lot of things financially with the Pac-12 that have come out recently as far as some overpayments by Comcast in the last 10 years that now all the schools have to absorb over the next couple of years. So there's a lot of things they got to, try to make up with money wise. And they need a good contract here with the TV deals in order to kind of keep these teams together.
Given the issues that you just mentioned and the lack of a TV deal quite yet, which they don't technically need one for another year, but it's sort of just this glue that could keep it all together. What are you thinking about kind of Colorado in the Pac-12? Because it feels like there's certainly a few reasons to perhaps want to go to the Big 12, which was the old stomping grounds.
Yeah, and to me, in talking to Colorado people, I think the only reason to want to go to the Big 12 would be if that's the best landing spot financially. I think everything else, they would rather be in the Pac-12. I mean, their alumni footprint is way bigger in the Pac-12 than it is in the Big 12. I think the fans would much rather go to Pac-12 cities than Big 12 cities and things like that. So I think they would much rather be in the Pac-12. But I think they're going to go wherever the best financial, landing spot is for Colorado.
With that TV deal, do you feel like it's got to be done in the next couple of months, or there may be some movement of teams wanting to leave? Because it feels like if there's two teams that leave, that perhaps that's the domino that sort of makes things crumble. But you could always add a San Diego State and SMU, as we saw the dating the last couple months a little bit with Kliavkov at both those places. What would it take for this to ultimately crumble? Because so far it's held together, but it feels like it's being held together with Scotch tape.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. I think the deal's probably got to be done this summer. And if it doesn't, then I think you start to worry if you're the Pac-12, if you're those schools. And I think, all it takes is one or two schools, and probably not one, but two coming together and deciding to leave together. And I think that if that happens, then all of a sudden the Pac-12 is really in trouble, and you start looking at this thing crumbling. And I think if you don't have that TV deal, maybe by August, then I think it's going to be really tough to, look at the long term of the Pac-12 and say, yeah, it's healthy.
We're talking to Brian Howell of BuffZone.com on BYU Sports Nation. How has it been with Colorado in the Pac-12? Certainly it's been, 11 or 12 years now. And certainly you mentioned the alumni base and sort of we've been to the Big 12, we like the Pac-12. What is sort of the vibe of what Colorado wants at this point with its future?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the football product has not been very good, but it wouldn't have been in any conference because they've made other mistakes football-wise. But as far as being in the Pac-12, I think it's been very well received for Colorado in that, financially, I know there's some issues with the Pac-12, but being in the Pac-12 has allowed them to probably increase their donor revenue. They've got a new Champion Center. It's not new anymore. It's probably 5 or 6 years old, but that they were able to get because they're in the Pac-12 and reach out to some of those alumni out west. And so I think they've liked being in the Pac-12 overall, but at some point you got to look at the future and say, where's the best place for us financially in the future? And if that's the Big 12, then I see them making the jump. But if it's the Pac-12, I think they're going to stay put.
Is it a straight numbers game? Because certainly the exposure of being on the likes of ESPN and Fox with a little less money probably has a certain amount of value. So what is it about? Because, there have been, rumors of, the CW involved. It's like, whoa, what? If the money is equal with the Big 12, but it's not ESPN Fox, is that still a good situation?
I think so because of so many other things. In the Pac-12, a lot of it that doesn't get talked about because it's not interesting is the academic side of it. And these schools align very well academically. Colorado fits better academically with a lot of the schools in the Pac-12. And what I mean by fit is they do a lot of research, collaboration and things like that. And so I think if the money is equal, I think the presidents are going to want to stay in the Pac-12 because it aligns better for a lot of reasons.
What is the value of the academic research institution is the question as well. Which is a phrase that Utah fans use against BYU quite a bit, which brings me to this. Utah and Colorado felt like a forced rivalry when the two entered the Pac-12. How's that been? Because BYU fans kind of look at it like, really?
No, it's still a forced rivalry, and I don't even know if it's proper to use the word rivalry because there's just not a whole lot there. I mean, it's yes, it's forced in that on rivalry weekend at the end of the year, that's who the Pac-12 puts CU against, but there's not a lot there. I mean, early on in the Pac-12 days, every one of those games was close, and they kind of meant something. When CU clinched the South Division in 2016, they did it by beating Utah. There's a couple times that both teams were going for bowl games or whatever. There was one year they were both 5 and 6 going into it. The winner would go to a bowl, the loser would not, and so there were some things at stake. But they don't hate each other, and that's kind of the key to a rivalry. And for Colorado, their biggest rival is still Nebraska, which they've only played a few times in the last decade or so. So I mean, that's the team that CU fans still hate.
Yeah, if you just flash back like 13 years, it's like, what? Nebraska's in the Big Ten and Colorado's in the Pac-12? Like, everything has changed. And certainly change coming in the form of Deion Sanders. What's that been like so far? And certainly the transfer portal has been busy there in Colorado.
Yeah, well, it's been a circus. When you've got a celebrity head coach, it's going to be very different, especially coming from Karl Dorrell, who I like personally, but was a very quiet personality. Deion Sanders is not a quiet personality. Probably the most confident man I've ever met in my life. And that rubs off on the team. You see it on social media and in all the videos they post. So I mean, it was a media circus all throughout spring, and then the transfer portal. They've kept us busy since spring ball. I haven't had a whole lot of reason to go to Boulder because there's not a lot of access to the team, but they've kept us plenty busy with all the movement in the transfer portal. I mean, it's 40 some players out and almost 40 in since the spring game a month ago. So it's been very busy and kind of wild to watch.
Well, it has been wild, and BYU coaches have been watching it in the transfer portal with a couple of Colorado players as well. Brian, what's the latest on what people can read from you if they're interested in learning about the Colorado Buffaloes?
Yeah, go to buffzone.com, and I mean we're covering everything. There's a lot of transfer portal news, every week. It's kind of slowing down, but a lot of features on some of those new guys coming to Colorado, and trying to make sense of what a depth chart looks like. I don't even know what that's going to look like at this point. And so, but trying to piece that together as all these pieces come together this summer.
Yeah, it's roster, then it's depth chart. So I'm sure you'll be busy all summer with that. Brian, we appreciate the time. Thank you for the insight.
You bet. Thanks.
Love me a good research institution reference. But yeah, Colorado, maybe Barry's saying, hey, could be soon. Again, we've heard soon reported on Gonzaga and now Colorado. Wake me up when someone actually moves here.
If it is Colorado, that takes it to 13 when Texas and Oklahoma leave. So, who else would join them?
Do you then go get San Diego State just so you have a pair?
Maybe.
You finally get in the Pacific time zone? That's what we said
that's
the
the
other
thing.
day.
Like, it feels like there is a major push. If the Big 12 does decide to expand again, like, that's probably going to be somewhere on the West Coast. Like, they want that Pacific time zone.
We're going to discuss a comment from the Iowa State AD, Jamie Pollard, coming up, where he basically says, hey, we're not, like, looking to do it. Just, like, if there's an opportunity, sure, but we're not, like, actively going to do it.
If it makes sense, then the Big 12 will do it.
It's AK, if someone's ready to leave the Pac-12, then they'll go, but they're not going to go, come over here, before you even know the TV contract. Like, the Pac-12 needs to see what is the actual deal we're going to get, how much is it, and where are we? Brian alluded to the fact that, or said, hey, it's not about the, who it's with. It's kind of about the money. But it has to be about who it's with. If you're on some remote channel, you're going to be super irrelevant. You're already somewhat irrelevant.
Colorado, to me, it feels like they never truly fit in the Pac-12. It's been weird for me the whole time.
Brian said something I didn't know, which I don't know much about Colorado's alumni base, nothing, is most of their alumni base is in the Pac-12 already. So sort of philosophically, they're like, well, we like this, we like the stations, the locations. From their point, we've been there, done that in the Big 12. Like, what is it that we're going to gain? Well, it has to be TV money, it looks like. But if, they're not going to be on the CW, like, for secondary or tertiary rights, you'd think. But, like, if they were, it's like, are you serious right now?
Maybe I'm
even
just
Apple
leaning...
Plus, like, no one's going to be watching that.
It's true. Maybe I'm just leaning heavily on the traditionalist of college football within me, which is I grew up watching Colorado play Texas and all these Big 12 schools. Nebraska when they were in there, like... That was like, and Colorado was at their heyday, like they were at the peak of their powers when they were doing it. They were a good football program. Cordell Stewart and
I don't think they care because they stink. Maybe
Coy Detmer, for that matter.
Coy Detmer, Ty's brother.
He was great. Right. He had a great run in Colorado.
Coy Detmer's dad. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I would like if Colorado
Salam
came back over. Fantastic player. They won a national championship in 1990.
Yeah.
As members of
Was that the year they needed 5 downs to do it?
Were they in the Big 8 at the time? I think it was the Big 8,
yes.
right? But they were
Big 12 was like 95.
They were kind of pushed in with that region of Texas teams.
Totally.
So I don't know. Maybe that's just the traditionalist in me that says Colorado in the Big 12 feels right. It makes sense to me. But they want the right money.
But nothing makes sense now. Like, rarely does anything like, that makes sense.
So
BYU and UCF are in the same football
sad.
conference.
Hey, bring over San Diego State and Colorado. And frankly, both of those schools have great basketball programs. Like, Colorado's a good basketball program.
Let's go.
Come on over.
Let's do it, Doc.
Let's do it. Let's make it 14
All right,
teams.
let's do it. Breaking news, Colorado and San Diego State to the Big 12. Let's go. Okay, from Taysom Hill to Jamal Williams to Kyle Van Noy, who we saw playing golf the other day. BYU Sports Nation looks back at the best players at each position to play in the 2010s decade. Watch the all-decade team Memorial Day Monday, noon Eastern on BYU TV and BYU Radio.
Let's go. Up next, what did New York Jets GM Joe Douglas recently say about Zach Wilson that has us all saying, well, yeah, of course it's that way? This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
At BYU, we believe wholeheartedly in expanding joy, and that joy comes from learning and serving. Some of the best, most lasting learning happens when we serve, when we experience, when we connect in real, lasting ways. It's what we call inspiring learning. Learning that inspires us to create a better world, to do and be better. After all, light shared is the best kind of light.
Trio Orem Senior Living believes in empowering seniors to live life to the fullest. We help eliminate stress out of daily life when you live at Trio. Less time focusing on housework means you can socialize at one of our many events, with safety in mind, of course. And did we mention our spacious apartments with modern amenities? Learn more about setting up a private tour at trioorem.com.
Heroes are taking over Saturday mornings on BYU TV. Heroes who are brave, smart, and wield magical powers. Heroes who are good friends, problem solvers, and kind to everyone. Heroes who work together to lift and inspire, to make someone's day. Watch your favorite heroes in action Saturday mornings on BYU TV, and then go be a hero yourself.
Make sure to follow BYU Sports Nation on social media, content throughout the day, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
Welcome back to Studio B. I am Spencer Linton. He is Jarom Jordan. Let's roll out today's headlines.
BYU football ranks 60th in ESPN's Bill Connolly's post-spring SP Plus rankings, 42nd on offense, 80th on defense. That 60th was 13th in the Big 12.
Okay. College basketball insider and bracketologist Rocco Miller reporting yesterday that BYU men's basketball will host the Denver Pioneers as part of the Cougars' non-conference schedule. You see on the television screens in front of you, we have 7 for sure things. San Diego State on November 10th, Morgan State, Vegas Showdown,
8 with 2 in Vegas.
Right, Fresno State, at Utah, Georgia State, and now Denver. Those are all reported by some type of official designation.
Or official on a few accounts.
Yes.
But you don't have to walk the plains to be a Pioneer, Spence.
I don't?
4 members of the men's track and field team qualified for national after day 1 of the NCAA preliminaries in Sacramento. Cameron Bates, javelin. Caleb Witskin, pole vault. Casey Klinger and Brandon Garnica in the 10K. Best of luck to everybody as the women's team begins competition today as well. 28 athletes vying for spots at nationals.
BYU men's golf competing in the NCAA National Championships today in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you remember, The Cougars, because of no Sunday play, will tee off today earlier than every other team competing. This is BYU's final round, so they will play their Sunday round on Thursday, alone on the course. Nobody watching except for BYU players and the coaches. And then they'll compete on Friday and Saturday and have to wait and see what happens with the rest of the teams on Sunday. Hopefully there's good weather, ideal conditions, and BYU can do something they haven't done in this format, which is play well in this Thursday round. Remember, the Cougars won it all back in 1981. Is this the year they do it again?
Where's the 81 shirts for the men's golf national title?
I need that.
Come on,
I need
man.
that. I should have that for multiple reasons. I was born in 81.
So old. Just put a 1 over that 4. Trent Mosier is one of 20 players training to play on USA Volleyball's U21 team that will compete in Havana in 2 weeks at the Norseca Pan Am Cup. Mosier was on the team last year that won gold in Havana.
Jackson Clough in minor league baseball hit a 2-run home run last night for the Harrisburg Senators, part of the Washington Nationals organization. A 7-4 victory over the Reading Fightin' Phils. That takes Jackson's home run total to 3 on the season. He's got 8 runs batted in.
Is it true they have to wear the wigs while they play?
I have no idea.
That would be epic. Out of the batting.
That'd be epic, right? Oh my gosh. Those are today's headlines. Now it's time to opinionate as we whip it. The Cougar Whip Round presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
College Football News ranks BYU as the 5th best running back room in the Big 12. Is that position more the most underrated position group at this point?
Most underrated? I don't know. I think that it's the defensive backs as the most underrated group. I don't think people understand how good Eddie Heckard really is. And Jacob Robinson is probably an underappreciated, undervalued part of the secondary, as is Malik Moore, Micah Harper. For me, it's BYU's secondary that's still the most underrated position group.
The running backs are getting a lot of love. Like Athlon Sports, Aiden Robbins was a
second team all Big 12.
Meaning he's one of the top 4 running backs in the Big 12.
Whoa.
I like what I'm hearing there. Hopefully that comes to fruition.
So I think that makes them not underrated.
Underrated. Highly.
Yesterday, New York Jets general manager Joe Douglas said something very interesting about Jets quarterback Zach Wilson. Quote, "Sometimes you don't take into account the ramifications of playing a young quarterback early in his career. I think going back, it would have been great to have a veteran quarterback like a Joe Flacco that first season." Remember, Joe played with the Jets in the second season. Jarom, what do you make of these comments by Joe Douglas?
Sometimes you did. Haven't we had enough case studies in this situation to know that most of the time it's not a great situation? At least like 6 to 8 games. Instead, he's being thrown out there. Obviously, Zach is the first one that needed to play better, but the situation wasn't ripe either. Yes, but we knew this before. We didn't need to see it play out.
A shocker that Robert Saleh, the head coach, is like, man, Zach working with Aaron Rodgers has been awesome. He's a sponge. He's soaking everything up. This is going to help Zach become the player that we know he is, and this is the reason we drafted him, because we know what he can develop into, and now he's working with Aaron Rodgers.
You think Brock Purdy would have done what he did if he was the starter of game 1? No, he had to sit out and see it, right? Speaking of Zach Wilson, the Gambling Couch Shows podcast tweeted a photo of, quote, Big 12 legends. Zach Wilson, what? And West Virginia quarterback Will Greer on the cover of the new college football video game. Is Zach Wilson a Big 12 legend?
No, he is not. In fact, I was trying to think, did Zach Wilson even play a Big 12 team in his entire tenure at BYU? I don't think he did.
I don't think so, no. Didn't even play one.
I was trying to find like an in there, like, oh, maybe he beat a Big 12 team? No. Like
future Big 12 team, Houston,
but not exactly. So no, he's not.
If anything, he's a Sun Belt legend from the amount of teams he played in 2020 in the Sun Belt.
Zach Wilson's a legend at BYU for sure, not a Big 12 legend. And that's okay. It's all right. All right.
Jimmer Fredette was not in the WCC. Even though in the league they were like, throwing up Jimmer. I'm like, he didn't play in this league.
Jeremy, you referenced this earlier in an article from The Athletic yesterday. Iowa State's athletic director, Jamie Pollard, who I really like, by the way, super nice dude, really well-spoken, and love how much insight he brings. He discussed how united the new Big 12 is, as well as the rumors surrounding Big 12 expansion. Pollard was quoted as saying, What we wanted to do is be positioned that if there were other conferences that had issues, the Pac-12, that the Big 12 would be a great landing spot. But we don't need anybody to come to the Big 12, so we're not actively looking to expand.
We're not that desperate.
But if the opportunity exists, we're ready to expand, end quote.
Well stated.
Should the conference consider not expanding if they're so united and in a good place?
No, they're good. They're just, if it presents itself, great.
If you can get to 14 and you can add like valuable brands, say what you will about Colorado and the madness of Deion Sanders, they're a valued brand with a great history. And San Diego State is a program on the rise.
I'll take those two right now.
Primarily because of what they've done with basketball, and they're in the Pacific time zone. Those two, come on over.
Right now.
Let's go. Up next, our latest Deep Blue is a fantastic one. And on BYU gymnast Lindsey Hunt, how she overcame basically all the odds to compete at BYU. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Maersk, your e-commerce logistics shipping partner.
If you're looking to build your brand awareness and increase market share as BYU moves into the Big 12, this is the place, BYU Athletics. We can provide the tools you need to make sure your company is seen and heard. BYU Athletics is where you can align your products and services with loyal fans that cheer for our Cougars. And they can also help your business win. Learn more about what a partnership with BYU Athletics and your company will look like. After all, this is the place. Email sponsorship at byu.edu today.
When my grandfather started this company in 1947, he couldn't have envisioned what we would ultimately become. We realized that our value to our customers is that we will be there day after day, year after year, doing whatever we need to find solutions to the challenges that they face. We are committed to be honestly better in all that we do, in every opportunity that we have to serve our customers.
He knows that he's different. He knows that things are hard for him.
Taking the leg was how we could save her life.
I think God put the animals in our path, and I think it is up to us to care for them.
It's like dream come true kind of stuff.
Good job, buddy. You've completed her life.
He loves him so much.
There are happy endings to tragic situations.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation, live from Studio B. BYU gymnast Lindsey Hunt makes her transition from the balance beam to the uneven bars and everything she does in between look relatively easy. A feat many didn't think was possible when a misdiagnosis left her at death's front door years ago. This is Deep Blue.
I felt like I had to do something important with my life, and I had to be stable. I had to go to college, have a steady income. So I went into nursing, but I had a couple art classes that I just wanted to try out. Once I started taking those classes, I realized that I loved it. I was doing this one painting, 6 hours go by, and I'm still painting. It didn't drain me. I just kept wanting to do more, and I had more ideas and things I could do better and more of, and stretch and change. So I decided that life is short and I should just go with what I want to do instead of what I kind of thought I should do. I feel like it's hard not to become an adult and responsible and do what everybody else does, because that's what I feel like the culture and what the systems in our society are making us into, I guess. I don't know. Like in school, you just have to do something a certain way, and this is the formula to the solution and that's the only way, but there's always another way. So art is definitely a risk. You know, you don't know what you're gonna do with it. You don't know what profession you're gonna create out of it. It's all up to you. But with nursing, it's like, you know what's gonna happen and you know what your income is at this place. I just felt like the part of me would be missing if I didn't do art, and I feel like I just have to do it. My sophomore year in high school, this is kind of like the year when in gymnastics you get recruited, and so it was a bad time to get sick. Let's just say that. It started with me getting sick for 3 weeks with the stomach flu. I kept going to the doctor. Oh yeah, it's just the stomach flu, don't even worry about it. So I would keep going to practice too during that time, and I would just like, you know, be doing giants around the bar, and I would be doing really bad because I was in a lot of pain, but I just like kept going. So then we went to the doctors again. The nurses were like, here, just take this like stomach flu medicine and she's fine. And my mom's like, no, we're gonna get a blood test. My appendix had ruptured, so it wasn't just like inflamed and I had appendicitis, it had actually ruptured. All these nurses kept coming in, just like one after the other, saying, you're so lucky, you should have died. Every single one. You should have died 5 days ago. After I was in the hospital, I still couldn't stand up straight. I still couldn't like walk normally. I had to like hold my stomach as I walked around my house and everything. And in gymnastics, you kind of move your back a lot and stomach. So I just already made up my mind that I was coming back and I would be better than I was before.
Now for Lindsey Hunt.
So far, handstands have looked fantastic. Wow, another great set for the Cougars. Body position was great. The landing, that is a true stick.
She has been out of this world good.
Because I had a kind of near-death experience as a teenager, it's definitely affected how I see my life now. I'm a gymnast at BYU, and I love art, and those are two very difficult things to do. And they take a lot of time and effort, but on my deathbed, what am I gonna regret in life? What am I gonna look back and think, I wish I did that, or I wish I didn't do that? And to me, I know I would regret not doing art. I like filling my life with things that challenge me because I want to look at myself at the end of my life and look at all the wonderful things I did and how I spent my life filling it with things I love and that excite me rather than things that I maybe thought I should do. I wish people knew what they were capable of, because I feel like people have very low expectations of themselves sometimes, and I think everyone has the potential to do something great.
Oh, what a story from Lindsey Hunter. And I love the tie over from just her general artistic ability into gymnastics, because so much of gymnastics is about artistry, with what you can do physically.
Lindsey Hunter, the Bob Ross of BYU.
I love it.
And hey, potential to do something great. Maybe we're shooting too low on BYU football. Let's go. Do something great.
I wish people knew what they were capable of. 8-4, 9-3, 10-2. Up next, our Rises shout-out goes out to a couple of teams chasing national championships in the very near future. This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
They prefer to be bringing the heat, getting set for success, demonstrating their drive. But when their blood and sweat turns to tears or anything else, we lay the groundwork for BYU's athletes to hit the ground running again, and you as well. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU Athletics.
Perfect time for what? As you wish.
Are you crazy?
It'll be fun.
Before I was a coach at BYU, I was a BYU fan.
When you hear the crowd roar, that makes it more exciting, more of an adrenaline rush.
BYU Sports, it's all about the fans.
Is Evan seeing a psychic?
Not that I'm aware of.
Is he a psychic?
No, I don't believe he is.
How did you know about this impending marriage? Where are you getting this information?
So it's the Guga.
That's how I go there. To where the princesses live.
Right, the princesses. They tell you things about companies?
Mm-hmm.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
100 days till we're in that venue. Talking about BYU football. BYU Sports Nation On Demand. Download the free apps to get all the content.
If you could 100% guarantee a win over either Texas or Oklahoma this season, which would it be?
Texas.
Our elite voice of the day, presented by PAX Healthcare Elevated, comes from Scuba Chewy on Twitter. This year, Texas, says Scuba Chewy. They're supposed to be good. I think BYU can beat Oklahoma without the guarantee.
A couple of responses like that.
Interesting.
I enjoy these. Hey, we might not need the guarantee.
I just want senior night to be a happy night.
Yeah.
That's what I want to guarantee. It's a happy night. Okay. FYI, we got a tweet or a message from Instagram from Christy Ford, who said, we were talking about classes. There is, or at least there was, a U.S. sports history class at BYU. I took it in 2008-ish.
I was here then.
One of my favorite classes ever,
I never heard about it. That would have been fun.
You would have gotten an A. So would I.
Who taught it? Yeah, oh yeah.
Today's Rise and Shoutouts presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
It would have been a rare A for me at BYU. 4 track athletes qualified for nationals. Cameron Bates in the javelin, Caleb Witskin in pole vault, Casey Klinger and Brandon Garnica in the 10K. Best of luck to everybody as they try and qualify this weekend. Good luck.
Hey, men's golf doing their thing. Good luck today as they compete in their Sunday round on a Thursday.
Yeah, good luck on this, the Sabbath of Thursday.
Our thanks to today's guests, Brian Howell and Lindsey Hunter.
Sorry to Dennis, we ran out of time. Hey, we've got tape shows coming up Friday and Monday. Long weekend, bro.
Let's go. Let's go. Yeah, you shouldn't miss it. I mean, we put in the work so that you can still enjoy a Friday show. We also need to give a shout out to Rick Fair, repping BYU men's golf. BYU football in 2020, performing in a pandemic. A BYU Sports Nation special tomorrow at noon Eastern. Go Cougs.
We're going to win!